Hello, Dr. Dan Miller, Week 12, Pro Football in America 250. We're looking at the NFL's current week that wrapped up last night, which is Week 12. And then we're also looking at any insights and crossover and reveals that can be found when we look at head coach George Washington and his new Continentals football team that's currently lined up against the redcoat opposition that's pinned up inside of Boston 250 years ago right now. In 1775 as we head into late November when the real football starts, right? It's always said that there's 3 seasons in the NFL. Number 1, September, October. Number 2, November, December, the real regular season, the key regular season. And then finally, you play your way in of or out of the third segment of the NFL season, which is January and February. So we're going to kind of subvert or whatever vert the order here of things a little bit. Let's remind you that head coach George Washington, we got a couple things that are going to be really cool today. A couple really cool things. Head coach George Washington last week fired one of his coordinators, Lieutenant Colonel Richard Gridley, who was the head of the artillery. Artillery is a very key thing because we're trying to win the siege of Boston with the British pinned up in there. We're not strong enough to go at them head on. We've got to lob in artillery and mortar and cannonballs and everything else that weighs heavy and can fly through the air. So artillery is really the make or break of everything here. Gridley stinks. Washington says, along with a lot of other people's input, get out of here. You're done as my coordinator. Offensive or defensive, doesn't matter. And he finds a new guy, replaces him with a new guy. 300-pound, would have been a great left tackle on the O-line. 300-pound Henry Knox, self-driven, self-inspired, self-motivated, self-learner, who's a bookseller, used to have a bookstore in Boston, and has just done a deep dive into everything and all things military in terms of books and written essays and just any written materials that as a bookseller and as an avid reader he could get his hands on. So he wants to master this general subject of military theory, but specifically artillery. Washington likes this guy. Hasn't spent a ton of time with him, but he likes that 300-pound guy, and he says, you're my new coordinator of artillery, my new chief of artillery. Knox has a question after saying, gosh darn, that's great, General. He has a follow-up question for the General. General, can you tell me what artillery do we have now? I'm not 100% sure. And Washington's answer is none. Not really. So that's part of your job. Welcome to the team. Welcome to the coaching staff. Now go get me and go create and go find and scrounge artillery that can be used against the British. So Henry Knox, instead of saying, hey, I didn't sign on for this, Henry Knox, being self-driven, self-learned, self-taught, self-inspired, all that, Knox is great. I'm in. I'm all in as your new offensive defensive coordinator, chief of artillery. So he and his brother set out 250 years ago right now. They're in New York City. They're traveled west from Cambridge, Massachusetts to New York City. They're going to hit the Hudson River and head north, upriver, to get to Lake George and then Lake Champlain where Fort Ticonderoga is, and it's believed some stockpile of artillery. Well, Henry today, we'll get on to our second topic, but Henry today is in New York City, I think for the first time. And he writes down a few initial impressions, which I think you'll enjoy here as we're in Week 12. This is Giants fans and Jets fans, right? And maybe a few Bills fans thrown in there for good measure. Not quite Eagles, though, I don't think. So here's what he says about New Yorkers. Great people. Love them. Great people. Really interesting. Number 1. Number 2. Nice places. Nice places, nice stuff. Number 3. Pretty profane. They're a profane group. Number 4. A lot of opinions. Golly, a lot of opinions. And then number 5. The biggest problem of having all those opinions is they've got the wrong opinion on the main issue of the day. We've got a lot of people here in New York City who are pro-loyalist, pro-King George, pro-Britain, pro-British Empire. The wrong side of the team. Wrong team. And then he writes down in a kind of a postscript to himself, I wonder if the only thing that can be done is how's he put it? Dust and ashes. Dust and ashes with New York City. Grind them in the dirt, burn them down to the ground. That's tough. Now, what I would be interested to know is this Henry and his brother, clanking tankards of ale at a tavern before they leave the city and go north, just kind of blowing off steam and making a comment like that, or is this a deep dive as far as Henry's concerned and revealing what he really thinks? We don't know just yet because it's only his first week as the coordinator. So that's our thing, right? We'll come back to that. Second thing, back at the main training camp, headquarters, stadium of the Continental team with head coach George Washington, which means surrounding Boston. There's a letter that's written and printed and circulated, local newspapers, and the letter is written by an unnamed author. The only name the author uses is the author calls him or herself a soldier, capital A, capital S, written by a soldier. In the letter, a soldier writes about how great the Continentals are. And I'm a Continental, he says. I'm one of you. And it's a great group. A lot of virtues, a lot of great things here. Made some great sacrifices. Notice the word great. We've made a lot of sacrifices. And then at the very end, and here I'm almost quoting for you, we really need three things. A few more noble efforts, a few more struggles, and a few more victories, and it's all over. We will have won and become a free and happy people forevermore. We just need that trio of a few things. Signed, a soldier. Now here's how this goes to Coach George Washington. Let's say you're Coach Washington. Somebody brings this to you. And again, it's in local newspapers. People know the newspapers, so this is out there. What do you do with this? If you're Washington, is this, great. Or if we're talking about culture, which he is talking about it all the time, he's trying to build a culture with this new franchise, this new team. Is this an insight into the culture? I mean, this I have always believed from a leadership perspective, you get your culture in two ways. You know your culture in two ways. Number one is actions. And then number two are what I'll call the offhand moments. Well, this is kind of an action, writing this essay and printing it and circulating it, but it's also an offhand moment. Nobody asked him to write it. He asked himself. So a soldier wrote it, posed in a way and presented in a way that he once known. So this kind of is a reveal of culture. Should Washington be concerned about the culture of the team based on this circulating essay, billboard, TikTok, podcast from a player who's talking from behind a screen because he doesn't want to be known, or maybe even a coach? So that's really your question. That's a leadership question for you. Do you want to stop and say, hey, this is great news? This is awful news? This is no news? That's your call. My only point here, from your leadership perspective, make the call. Decide it and then move based on what you've decided about this expression, this communication that we've got this week, 250 years ago. So that's who we are, right? That's where we are on week 12. I want to point out, remember I told you I was going to subvert, revert, invert, kind of vert our order. I usually start with the NFL week 12. I'm bringing the NFL in now, week 12 at the end. We've got a lot of coordinators who have been fired. Well, who is it? Let me see here. We've got the Giants defensive coordinator gone this week. We've got the Las Vegas Raiders offensive coordinator gone this week. This isn't the last of it, so of the teams that are really at the bottom of the bottom, there's probably going to be another couple of coordinators go before too many more days go by. So the firing of coordinators, the hiring of them, and one other thing, Washington can't do a deep dive in who Knox is. We can't do a long search, a long check, a long this or the interview process. He sees him, he knows a little bit about him, he talks with him briefly, likes what he's getting from this guy, and says, okay, you're the new coordinator. And here we go. And he's off in New York making his observations, and now we're here learning about something revealed in the writing of a soldier. I'm Dr. Dan Miller. It's great. I went long. You know, the most important thing are my next 2 words. Happy Thanksgiving. I'll see you next time for week 13.